is that you gotta go after resources. But you gotta come together first, and you gotta develop a sense of cohesiveness. And your sense of cohesiveness should be based around your strongest identification, cosmetic appearance, which is your skin color. Your greatest commonality is not what school you went to, what neighborhood you lived in, who your parents were, how much money you have. That's not your greatest commonality. The greatest commonality is your skin color. So you should be saying that we got to come together as a team. Why? Because Dr. Anderson told us that racism is a team sport. You either play as a team or you lose by default. You got enough sense about it to play as a team on a basketball court or football court. Why don't you play as a team as a race? So we have to start playing as a team. Now, once you start learning to play as a team, what's the next thing you must get? Next thing you must get is establish some turf. You must say, I must have a turf to operate on.
Land, real estate.
Land, that's right. And since they would not give you the 40 acres, you have no turf. You had a community, they stripped that. And that's why in the 1950s, when you started talking about social integration, they came up with a concept called black removal. They used the 1956 Highway Act to drive an expressway through every black community in America and destroyed it. You're going to find the old black communities in America, go find the expressway. It went right through it. And so that ran black folks. So white folks could get in that on the expressway and get to a new thing they built called suburbs. We never had suburbs before. But the suburbs came out of the fact that whites wanted to get away from blacks and blacks wanted to socially integrate. And so the whites said, we abandon these black folks, move to the suburbs, and take all of the what with them? Resources. We'll take all the industries, the factories, the automobile dealerships, the banks, the culture, the money, the wealth, the power, and relocate it in the suburbs. And we'll strip these urban areas. So these black folk, they come in, they can't run an urban city. You can't run Detroit, Chicago, St. Louis, Philadelphia. You can't run it because you won't be in the resources available to you. And so the white folks say, you all were smart enough to run a city. That's y'all just let the city run down. No, they ran it down for you. They used a policy called burnt fields, scorched earth policy. Say, we leave here, we're taking everything out.
And the only resources that they'll have is with the drugs that we put in.
It's time to step up and prep up.
Step up, prep up.
To help keep you. It's not for everyone.
That's right.
The guns that we put here.
That's right.
Yeah, so they'll have to resort to crime and violence to survive.
You're a smart man, yeah. You know why? See what most of our civil rights leaders don't understand, our elected officials don't understand, there's only 3 things that a black person can do to earn a living. Only 3 things. You either have a business up here or a job. That's the top. You don't have that, you go down to the second level. Second level, you go on some kind of social service. Food stamp, welfare, public housing. You don't have that, then you must go to the last level. Commit crime. So a black person must have a combination, sophistication, or elaboration of 3 things. A job, business, going down to crime. And when they did that, they divided that up. White crime would be called civil crime, black crime would be called blue collar crime. Blue collar crime, you go to jail, white collar crime, you go into the criminal courts.
What do you think about the conversation that they're having about reparations now?
Well, I've spent about 60 years. That's what books for. Most of that dialogue is being generated by my books. And but unfortunately, most of the people down there trying to latch on to the reparation movement don't know what the hell they're talking about. If Johnny come lately, the claim jumpers. They want to jump in on the movement just to get their name in the paper. They don't have a plan about what they're gonna do for reparations. But black folk entitled reparations. You have a chance to get some of it. Let me go back in history again. See, I told you in the first, you got 2, most people don't know this, but you got 2 constitutions. You got the first constitution of 1789. That's the 1 through 12 amendment. And those amendments gave whites everything they needed. That's why white folk didn't have all these, didn't have any big demands other than what was in the Constitution. So from 1789 up to 1860, the first Constitution was in effect. Amendment 1 through 12. But what happened after that was that in 1857, go back about 3 years, you had a black man went to court called Dred Scott. You familiar with that?
Yes.
He went to court trying to get some freedom Based on the fact he moved across state lines out of the South, he thought he would be free. Went to court. Finally, the Supreme Court ruled against him and said, no, you get out free. Why? He said, why? It's basically because in this country, because you're considered to be property. Your property in the Constitution, you're a citizen, you're not non-citizen in the Constitution, you have no rights. You have no rights. So therefore, a black person has no rights that a white person is bound to respect. And that was in 1857. So when the Civil War was over, after the Civil War was over, what they wanted to do, you had some white Republicans, liberal ones, saying we got to go back and give black folks something. We got to give them something. And so they said, we're going to start a second constitution. The 13th, 14th, and the 15th Amendment and the Civil Rights Laws constitute a second constitution of the United States. 99.5% of all people in America don't understand that. They don't understand you got two constitutions. The first constitution was the one 1789 all the way up to the amendments 1 through 12, 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. That was written strictly and solely for black folk. But I never had any black folk yet. Harris and the Bookers that run them off, they don't understand that. That they should be fighting saying, we got two constitutions. If I get elected to public office, I'm going to go back to that second constitution and try to get those things that were set aside for black folk. And what was that? The radical Republican says that in 1860 in the United States Congress, that in this nation, black folk can either be one or two things. You're going to be slaves or you're going to be free. To be free in America as black people, you must minimally have 40 acres and a mule. That's what and $100. That's where that saying came from. You must have 40 acres, a mule, and $100. And but what happened after that said, then you had the guardians of racism kill it. The United States Supreme Court is a guardian of racism. The Supreme Court is my primary purpose is to make sure that nothing changes racial issues in America. That's why the United States Supreme Court has never ruled effectively to the benefit of black folk. And so as soon as they enacted the 13th Amendment, the 14th Amendment, the 15th Amendment, and the Civil Rights Law. And the Civil Rights Law says that black folks must have some benefits. They set up freedom banks and everything else. But the United States Constitution came in and killed it. Supreme Court came in and killed it. You ever heard of what's called period of Reconstruction? Reconstruction? Between 1865, it was a 10-year period between 1865 and 1875. It was called Reconstruction. Now, what I tell black folk is that you should be saying, why did they call it Reconstruction?
Right.
It was reconstruct. Reconstruct. What do you mean by reconstruct?
Right.
The first Constitution was a social construct that locked you into the bottom barrel permanently. Reconstruction that took place between 1865 and 1875 says redo the thing, give black folk a chance. And it's supposed to go on forever, but the United States Supreme Court jumped in and killed it in 1875. It only lasted 10 years. They came in and said, no, we're not going to give black folk anything. Set them free with no land, no rights, no privileges, no tools, no animals, no house, no homes, no organization, no education, no animals, nothing. And tell them to root, hog, or die. Mm-hmm. And that's why Trump right now is stacking your courts with conservative Supreme Court justice.
Over 160.
That's right.
People haven't even realized that yet.
What I'm saying, say it again?
The people haven't even realized that 160 lifetime federal judges he's appointed.
That's right.
Some of the most racist, bigoted bastards you ever could meet.
Right. But that's right. What they don't understand in the Supreme Court, the first 87, the first 57 Supreme Court justices were slave owners. Did you know that?
No, sir.
You got it, brother. First 57 were slave owners. And the other 6 or 7, about another 6 or 7, have been white racists. That's why right now they got the Supreme Court sitting there with 9 people on it. What they're telling you is that justice in America for black folk can only be seen through the eyes of whites. You can't see it otherwise. That's why you got 9 people in the Supreme Court. You got 9 people, you got 9 whites there, one pretending to try to be black. But none of them take up any issues with black folks. Let's go to the lower level. Federal courts.
You don't give a fuck.
Now you good? Go ahead, brother.
Okay, let's go to the federal courts. Since Trump been in office, he's been about 47 federal judges. Okay?
No more than that.
You know that? How many?
160.
Okay, I don't know why I think keep track. Now, think about that. I've been giving you a lot of dates.